Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's exciting. Everybody's from different areas on here. And it seems like everybody has like different levels of experience. And I'm sure you guys will get a lot out of this presentation. And just know that we'll have a Q&A at the end. And so I'm really excited to put this together for you guys.
Thank you.
Nika, do you want to start? Maybe wait one more minute and we can get started.
Yeah, I can wait 1 minute. Sorry, yeah, because my daughter is calling me. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Yes. Are you busy? Yes. Oh, I was just trying to show you my face. Okay, well, I'm
Karyn, how long have you been keeping bees?
This is I'm going into my 4th season, so I'm still relatively new.
Oh, okay.
I think with my with the DCBA, Beekeepers Association, I would officially now qualify to be able to be a mentor. So I guess I'm not that new, but I still feel very new to the practice. How long have you been beekeeping?
Approaching probably 10 years or so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
you should be on here with us.
I always find it hilarious when Karyn says she's been doing it for 4 years and she's still fairly new, because I have been doing it for about 2.
Well,
I think there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. You never stop learning and beekeeping. The minute you feel like you know everything, you might as well admit defeat, because bees are ever changing and beekeeping is ever evolving. And there's all types of research that's going on about better practices in keeping bees. So if you're not learning regularly, then you could get left behind. You could be doing things that cause more harm than good with your bees. So you've definitely I've been doing it for about 7 years now. And so, yeah, I'm not at that 10-year mark, but I can't wait to be at that 10-year mark, 20-year mark. Like, I've been beekeeping for 20 years. I can't wait to say that. I just don't tell y'all right now. That's gonna be an exciting moment for me. I'll probably be wearing a shirt that says 20-year beekeeping. I love it. You want to go ahead and get started, Karyn and Bruce? You guys ready? Okay. Well, I want to take a moment to thank all of you for joining us today on our first year beekeeping presentation. Karyn, Bruce, and I are all beekeepers from different parts of the U.S. that are working together to build a mentorship program for other beekeepers. Our goal is to empower and to engage other beekeepers or aspiring beekeepers around the U.S. and beyond. And we're just glad to have you guys all here today. We are going to introduce ourselves and kind of the work that we do a little bit. And so I will go ahead and start, and then we'll have Bruce jump in, and then we will have Karyn jump in to introduce herself as well. So my name is Nike Forte. I am an urban farmer and beekeeper. I'm the director of Urban Farms, where we grow food to feed the homeless around the Phoenix area. I am in Phoenix, Arizona. If you notice, it's light outside right now, and it is where Arthur is, because we're still on this end of the U.S. where it's still light outside. I also run a community garden where it's me and 18 different women, and we all grow food on this space, and we work with each other, network with each other, teach each other, grow with each other. And then I also do Bayhive Beekeeper program. The Bayhide Beekeeper program is a program meant to train women of color in the art of beekeeping. We do open it up to other participants through smaller workshops, but our overall program, which is about 8 to 10 weeks long, is only for women of color, and we use it as a way to build sisterhood, to network and empower with each other. We are going to be turning that into a virtual program as well, so we can get more women involved in our beekeeping sisterhood. If you guys want to look us up, we are Bayhive Beekeepers. And yeah, we would love to have you guys engage with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Bruce now.
Hi, all. Thank you all for coming out and meeting with us. My name is Bruce Thompson. I am going into actually my third year beekeeping. I said earlier that I've been doing it for 2 years, but I've been beekeeping as the, I guess, head beekeeper for 2 years now. It's going into my second season. So 3 years beekeeping to being like the main beekeeper at a community garden here in Wilmington, Delaware, as well as we have hives on a historic theater that is right down the street. It's an urban area. Wilmington is a small city in the second smallest state in the United States, but it's still a city, and it poses its own unique challenges. I came into knowledge of Karyn and Nika through a viral tweet where I was just trying to find community because I did not know that people who looked like me did beekeeping. And I wanted to find people who could speak to my experiences as a person and as a beekeeper and learn from them. And it's really kind of apropos how I found them and how we've come together to, do something where we're providing a space for people to have that were just like me. So I am new to beekeeping, but I'm not new to community. And yeah, I'm happy to have you guys along for the ride.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karyn Bigelow, also known as Beekeeping While Black on social media. And I came through this space. I was playing The Sims, honestly, during the pandemic, during lockdown, in order to pass time fast. And I got interested in the beehive and the game. And randomly, I thought to myself, I can do that. And so that next season, I took a class and started beekeeping. And what I found through that experience was that it was a very lonely experience. I found myself asking questions as a Black beekeeper that I knew my predominantly white counterparts were not asking around like issues of safety, hair, different things. And so that's why I started Beekeeping While Black in order to be in community. And through these viral spaces, I've been able to connect with such great people like Nika and Bruce. And so that's part of my story. I'm based in DC. I'm an environmentalist and a food security specialist. And so that's what I do in my full-time capacity, but just excited to be in a space where we can really come and support other beekeepers on this amazing journey. Okay, so to get into our presentation, I wanted to just talk about Black beekeepers in the US as the context. So just to say, of course, beekeeping did not start in the US, neither as Black Americans, our history did not start in the US, but I just wanted to show, to talk about beekeepers through history in the US, just to show that we are here, despite the fact that we may not always see ourselves in what's presented as what's a beekeeper. We've always been beekeeping in this country. And so I actually found a quote that I love that said, Black people have been at the core of beekeeping from the beginning. Beekeeping history is Black history. And so honeybees have been in this country literally almost as long as Black Americans have been in this country. And so when the first Angolans were brought in 1619, the first bee colonies were brought from Europe in 1622. And so we have been the stewards, the same way we were on farms and other things, our ancestors, we have been the stewards of the bees also since, that time. And so in the picture that's on the right-hand side is actually a log hive that was made before more modern hives were created. And there are recalls and narratives of those who were formerly enslaved where they called them bee gums, also known as log hives. And so just to show that there's narratives such as Ida Atkins, who was formerly enslaved around, she talked about actually beekeeping. And so we have been doing this along in the stream of our ancestors for hundreds of years. And so I also wanted to highlight some of the historic people who have been beekeepers over the years, such as Benjamin Banneker, who was the person who designed literally Washington, D.C. With Pierre L'Enfant. There's also George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington, and Booker T. Whatley as well, who were beekeepers. And so they may be known for other things, but they actually were beekeepers as well. And they were pioneers in farming, not just for beekeeping, but so many other things. And they actually they were all affiliated with Tuskegee University, which is where it was actually mandatory for all students to learn beekeeping at one point as a part of the curriculum for anyone who studied there. And it was also a huge advocacy point for George Washington Carver and Dr. Booker T. Whatley, that Black people, especially Black farmers, get into beekeeping, so much so that many of them were trying to get in the South for a lot of farms to be transformed from cotton fields actually over to apiaries. And so, and then my favorite part of Black history that is shown is also with the creation of the Lady Beekeeper Club, which was founded in 1892 at Tuskegee University through Margaret Murray Washington, who was the wife of Booker T. Washington. And so the cool thing about these women, as you can see in that picture, they were beekeepers. They did not use suits. They were actually known to be so in control of the bees that it was not required for them to wear suits because they were just that good at being beekeepers. And then just a small part to show a little bit of modern history is that in 2019, entomologist Dr. Samuel Ramsey, who I've had the honor to be able to see speak, he was the first scientist to discover that varroa mites feasted on the fat bodies of honeybees exactly 100 years after Dr. Charles Henry Turner published over 70 articles related to bees. And Dr. Turner was the first person that discovered that bees could see color and recognize patterns. And so in that 100-year history, not only have we been beekeepers, but we've also been a part of the scientific discoveries that have been crucial to knowing about the health and longevity of bees. And so we are still making history in that respect. And so just a small part to show that we still have, even in modern history, we're still making strides and representing as Black beekeepers. Okay, so to get to information that would be useful for new beekeepers, we wanted to talk about the cost of beekeeping. And one of those things that I have a few categories that I pulled together, and in the middle column is based upon what some other blogs and others have said online about how much the cost should be or expected to be. Whereas on the far right column is where I actually spent and tracked my spending in my first year of beekeeping. And so for education and training, it was estimated that on average you should spend around $20. I spent $125. I don't know where they teach classes for $20, but apparently they do somewhere. And so I would expect to probably spend a little bit more than $20 on that. Protective gear. No one talked about how much that would cost. I spent over $300, but that's because I brought 2 suits and my second suit was like a designer suit. So that was like over $200. I don't suggest going super expensive. I also wouldn't go super cheap on the suit because you want it to be something that is made of good material, given that it is supposed to be protective gear. However, go somewhere in the middle range. I would say probably you can get a decent suit for around like $100 or so, or honestly less, depending upon what type of suit you want to get. But go somewhere in the middle with that. Hive boxes and frames. Different blogs said that you can estimate to spend anywhere from $60 to $200, or $150 to $300. I was fortunate that I was able to get mine free. But I will say, if someone gives you free material, beekeeping materials, be very careful with that, because you really need to know where that comes from, because there can be disease that gets capped into a box. Um, and so if it gets transferred from one person to another, you have to be very careful about that and really know where the who the beekeeper is that's giving the stuff to you. So be very careful with that. And so if you're unsure, I would go with getting stuff that is new. And it really ranges depending upon what area you are. I would say that in my area at one of the local beekeeping stores, I can probably pay around $75 for frames and the box itself. Beekeeping tools, the range that was estimated on an average was about $100 to $300. I got a kit of tools on Amazon for like $27, so it wasn't very expensive. And then for bees, you can get bees for free if you can catch a swarm, or again, someone can give them to you. Or you can expect to spend around $350. I pay for $250. My bees are from a small local business with bees that it's always best when possible to get regional sourced bees, because those bees are better acclimated to the weather. And also with that $250 included like a small delivery fee. So they were actually able to bring the bees to me. And so the next thing is hive hygiene. A big part of beekeeping, the bees will do a lot of the work themselves when it comes to what is needed, as well as what, in order to survive, like they know what they're doing and to make honey and all that stuff. But a big part of being a beekeeper is really disease management. When possible, being able to see if there's something wrong that's going on in the hive and being able to kind of diagnose and treat what that is. And so that can range and doing tests and different things. And so that can be anywhere from $20 to $200 from what the blogs say. I only spent $10 that first year. I was fortunate that I haven't had to actually experience varroa mites, which is very uncommon so far as a beekeeper. My bees have been able to have really good hygiene, but that's frankly more luck than anything. So I haven't had to spend a lot of money in hive hygiene so far. And so the average beekeeper can expect to spend anywhere from $350 to over $1,300. In that first year, I spent over $700. I could have saved money based upon not buying an expensive beekeeping suit. But other than that, I would say probably expect to, spend somewhere between maybe $1,000 per hive at the higher end, maybe 500 on the lower end, but it really just depends on what area you are and how much you have to buy in that first year.
Can I expound upon something before we go to the next slide? Do you mind, Karyn?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so she said there's an area when you can get bees for free. That is true. You can get bees for free. I wouldn't suggest you do that as a beginner beekeeper. In your first year, I would not suggest that you go out and try to trap a swarm and then make your first hive out of it. Because one, it does take some skill and patience to capture swarms. Two, you also need to be able to read that hive and know like what's going on with the queen, what, the health of the actual colony is. And so I would not suggest you do that in your first year. What I would suggest is that once you get comfortable, after you've ordered you a colony of bees that you know what their genetic makeup is. So there's Italian bees, there's European bees, there's German bees, there's all different types of bees. But you want to make sure that first hive, you know what the genetic makeup is for that colony, So then you can track it easily. You get to know their temperament, what their activities are like. And then after you've had some training on capturing swarms from someone that does it, then I would say go get you some freebies. But definitely don't do, go out there and just, oh, well, I got a box and my first year, I'm just gonna go trap me some bees and throw them in a box. Like, I mean, you could get away with that, but do you have the experience to one, change out the queen, because that's something that you have to do when you catch a swarm, because you don't know the age of the queen. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm sorry I'm taking up a little more time on her slide than I thought I would, but I definitely wanted to make sure I told you guys that.
Yeah, thank you, Nika. Nika, next is the topics for beekeeping classes, and so you can turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Again, so I started a Bay Hive Beekeeper program. My program usually runs about 8 to 10 weeks. I will tell you guys a short story about how I started the Bay Hive Beekeeper program, and I had an experience where I was a part of a local beekeeping group. I have been beekeeping for some time. I'm a very big advocate for learning from different people, right? So don't just learn from one beekeeper, but learn from several beekeepers. So that way you can get an idea of like the best way that works for you for keeping your hive. I thought I had built some really good relationships with the local beekeepers within this group. And I will say, when I say that this happened in the group, I don't want to say that everybody in the group, that this is what happened. This is not a generalization, just in case some of those people are watching who are in that group. I'm not saying that it was everybody, but what I'm saying is that I have been in this group for a couple years. I went back into the group because I noticed that there were no one that looked like me in this group. I do live in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, so there's not a lot of us around here, but I asked in the group, are there any other Black beekeepers that I can network with here? And I pissed off the group. So after that, I was harassed for about a week or two. I was sent hate mail. I was threatened. My husband was worried. And I was just like, you know what? This just lets me know that I need to create a safe space for me to ask these questions and for me to network with other people and not have to get this type of backlash. And because I'm not seeing anyone that looks like me, I'm going to train some people. So I called my friends and I was like, girl, I want to start this beekeeping program. Would you join me? And my friends were like, yeah, girl, we'll do it. One of my friends was like, nah, girl, like, I don't mess with the bees. And I was just like, come hang out with us. You'll love it. And so I put out the word that I was doing a beekeeper program for women of color and ended up getting 14 women in my first training class. The next training class, I had like 18 people, and my numbers are growing, and I have a waiting list. So I just wanted to share that little story with you and why it's important for you to create spaces of your own if they're not safe for you, and how I started the Bay Hive Beekeeper program. And so a part of my program, this is what I cover. The only thing that I don't cover is the last thing on this list, but I'm going to go through everything that I cover that I think is absolutely important. That there were some things that were left out of what I learned that I wish that I would have learned. One is bee biology and lingo. A lot of times when you take a little beekeeping course local, like a beginner beekeeper class, they will go over some basic parts of the bee, but not really everything about the bee. So you need to know the part that excretes the pheromones that control the colony and the bee. That was in the colony of bees, and that was not something I necessarily learned in school. I learned about the legs, the thorax, the head, the antennas, and the things like that. But if you're going to be in a beekeeper class, make sure that they go more deeper into the different parts of the bee and what each part does, because there are different parts of the body that are extremely important that help one, maintain the colony as a whole and to keep everyone in harmony. Bee lingo is another thing. So if I were to say supersedure, how many of you guys know what supersedure means? So like Arthur does. Oh, you should, brother. You've been doing this for 10 years. You don't know, I'm worried. Michaela or Angela or Shalita or Lashara, like, do any of you guys know what supersedure means? No, supersedure is when your colony of bees decides that it does not want the queen that it has anymore, and it will replace her. That is something important that you guys need to know. If your queen is not laying, if she's not functioning properly, if you do not know what that looks like, then you can lose a whole colony of bees. So supersedure is a word you need to know. And if your programs aren't covering these words, then you need to be asking questions about why you're going to them. Bee technology and equipment. Of course, you need to know the different tools that you can use for your hive, different ways that you can feed your hive, take care of them. There are different things that you're going to be doing at different parts of the year that you're going to need different tools for. So if your programs are not going over how to take care of them with these specific tools at different times of year, then you may want to make sure that you're getting classes from more people. Go and check more people. Beehive parts. What are the different parts of a box, a beehive? You need to know what different parts are so that you know where you're looking for resources, because different boxes and different spaces in the hive house different resources and different things within a colony. So you should definitely know beehive parts. Beekeeping in urban spaces. If you don't have rural land and you want to keep bees in your backyard or in a city space, then you need to know the rules and regulations for beekeeping in those areas and what you need to do that may be different than when you're beekeeping in a rural space, like on a farm. Hive infestation prevention is very important. Just like Karyn said, there's times where your bees can get infested with varroa mites or beetles or moths, depending on the type of year and your location, your different parts of the country. So you may not necessarily get beetles in Arizona, but you would get varroa mites in Arizona, or you would get wax moths in Arizona, but maybe in DC, where our sister Karyn is, beetles are something that they necessarily have to look out for. So I would say definitely knowing how to treat and recognize the different things that can affect your hive is very important. So your classes should definitely be covering that as well. Honey extraction. Honey extraction, not a lot of programs will give you that. Some will. It depends. If you're taking a class online, you may get a small light class where you can watch them online, extract honey. But I would always suggest that you find a beekeeper that is local to you that's going to teach you how to extract the honey from your hive without harming your bees, and how to process it so that you can either use it for yourself or sell it at market or whatever it is that you choose to do with the honey. Be a good neighbor. That part of my program covers just the laws and regulations on how to keep bees in your backyard if you're going to, and how to get your neighbors involved in supporting you in your beekeeping journey. A lot of times, they're like in Arizona, we have a rule: you cannot have it 25 feet from any fence line or walkway or high trafficked area. Those are things you guys need to know, because if 25 feet is in the center of your backyard, you don't want to put your bees there, because that's where your family enjoys their time, right? So being mindful of what the rules and regulations are in your city under your zip code is very important. So look up cooperative extensions and beekeeping program associations in your area to make sure you get all those rules down. Hive inspections and seasonal beekeeping. Again, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for in your hive and the parts of your beehive as a whole, you're not going to be able to complete your inspections. There are definitely things that you should be looking out for. You need to be looking to see if your queen is laying and what the stages are of the larva, so then you know the last time she's been there if you can't find her. Because a lot of times finding your queen bee is like, that's what your goal is when you're first being a beekeeper. You just want to be able to find your queen. And some people get really frustrated if they can't. If your queen is not marked, it may take you longer to find her. And so you want to make sure that you have down how to complete an inspection and a safe way to do it. One thing that I always tell people when they're working their hive or they're doing an inspection is never to just pull frames out randomly. Never do that. You work your way from one end of your box to the other end of your box. So that way you disrupt your hive. There's less disruption in your hive, and you know exactly the order that your frames were in, and you can put them right back in those orders. So if they're not telling you how to do a complete hive inspection, what to look for when you're doing a hive inspection, and the different inspections that you're going to be doing during the different seasons of the year, because a hive inspection in the wintertime is different than a hive inspection in the spring and is different than a hive inspection in the summer. You're looking for different things. You're paying attention to different things, different diseases during different times of the year, and different infestations during different times of the year. So that definitely should be covered in any beekeeping class you're going to take. I added on different things. So a part of my program, it's like half instructional and half like hands-on working the hives, because you can take a class online and learn a lot. I've taken several classes. I've done from Heroes to Hives. I've done the University of Michigan beekeeping class they have. I've done local classes here, but a lot of them don't necessarily cover beekeeping as a business. Beekeeping as a business is definitely something that should be added to a program. And if not, then come join me on my class and we'll talk about it. But you need to know the different ways that that you can make money. And it's not just all about the honey. It could be about the propolis. It could be about the pollen. There are different things inside of the hive, and also the wax that you can use. There are people who extract royal jelly, which is what they feed the queen bees. And they find that to be a very highly nutritional product that the bees make, besides just the honey and the pollen and all of that. So there are different ways that you can make money off of your hives. I wouldn't expect that in the first year, but I do always throw in a little class on that at the end. And then I always encourage my students to go and participate in any honeybee activities, festivals, things like that. So during my class, one of the things that we do is after our program is all over, we all volunteer and meet at the honeybee festival that we have here locally. And it's our way of giving back to the honeybee community, the beekeeping community, and also learning different ways to market our business. So after we usually do the field trip, we come to get back together and we do a second class on beekeeping and business. And that class is then putting together a business plan, marketing, and things like that to help them get to thinking about how they're going to market themselves, if that's what they want to do. You may just be doing it for yourself, and that's fine. When I first started beekeeping, I started it as a way to increase the production on our urban farms without adding any inputs or chemicals on the space. After doing some research, I found out that bees can help increase the production on any urban farm or conventional farm by 30 to 50% just by adding some colonies to your space. So I convinced my job to pay for me to take the classes, and the local beekeeper who taught me ended up sponsoring a couple of hives I had at my job. And then that's how I kind of expanded into my own business and just thought about that. I say that after about 4 years, like Karyn is hitting her 4-year mark or past her 4-year mark, and she can be a mentor, this is the perfect time for her to start doing her own little basic beekeeping class, because she's gotten that under her belt and she has some years under her belt, seasons under her belt, where she can share those experiences with others. Don't feel like you don't have to go into it teaching like I'm a scientist and I know all these, all the scientific studies on bees. You don't have to do that. But this is a way that we can get everyone on this planet thinking about how we're going to be sustaining ourselves in the next 5 to 6 years. So share that information with someone else. And then the last thing that I definitely think that we should all learn is how to catch a swarm safely. So I'm sure Bruce is going to cover this in his part, but we see a lot of beekeepers online who are doing some kind of the most outrageous things when they're going to get bees, and they're showing themselves with no PPE or protection gear on at all. And for me, that really jars me, because then that gets other people thinking that it's safe for them to do. And while in some instances it may be, there are other instances where it is not safe to do that. So working with someone locally that knows how to catch swarms, and getting them to kind of mentor you through that, and going and following them on different trap jobs that they may have, trap out jobs they may have, or swarm catching jobs they may have, is the best way to know that. I have not really had that experience here. I've asked millions or hundreds of beekeepers locally, will you let me go with you while you go trap out some bees? I'll go catch a swarm with you. I'll be your helper. And I have yet to get that help. But what I did find that was how to trap and some swarms of bees that were like hanging on a tree, which is way easier than doing it cut out. You know, where someone has bees in their attic or in a storage shed, which takes a little more time and expertise to do. But catching small swarms hanging in a tree or on the side of the building, that's easy enough for you to watch a YouTube video about and do. But I always suggest that you mentor with someone or shadow someone so you can learn how to do this in a safe way, not just for you, but for the people who are around you, the neighbors who are walking by, the people who are going in and out of businesses, because a lot of times swarms will hang on a tree or a car on the side of the building somewhere, and it may be a high trafficked area. You don't want to go in and try to catch those bees while business hours are happening. So get with someone so you can learn how to do it in a safe way. And that's pretty much all my suggestions on what you should have or be taught in a basic beekeeping class. And if you have any questions, I'm always open. If you want to send me an email and say, hey, I saw this, you know, like, what do you think about this? And if you use ChatGPT, I have made what is called a beehive buddy. If you look that up on ChatGPT, it is a way for you to scan your hives, your frames, or to ask questions, and it will give you a health check. It'll tell you if it sees something in there like wax moths or something that you need to get rid of. It'll give you organic ways to treat those. So ChatGPT has been my best friend for the past couple months. I've been working this program trying to get all the kinks out. If you guys are interested and you have hives that you're working right now and you guys use ChatGPT, go and look for Beehive Buddy. It should show up under ABC Mobile as a creator. Use it and give me feedback, because I would love to know what you think that app could do better to help new beekeepers or people who are into beekeeping. But that's all I got. Thank you. And I will turn it over to Bruce.
Cool. So thank you so very much. It's kind of apropos that slide was empty for words of wisdom, because as some of the more experienced beekeepers here will tell you, the old adage is that if you ask one question to 15 beekeepers, you will get 16 answers. And with that being said, a little bit more into like my background into beekeeping, because kind of like Nika, my beekeeping started with my job as well. I had a mentor who was an executive director at the organization that I worked for. He had installed bees on the roof of our building. And on a whim, me being as curious as I am, I asked if I could just go up with him. And I literally started then. I went up and I basically never came back down, because I just wanted to be around the bees. And I got my knowledge through a mentor. I haven't gone to a class. I plan on going to some classes because I want to take a beginner's class just to see what it is and how it differs. And I want to learn from as many people as possible. But that goes into my words of knowledge or words of wisdom for beginning beekeepers, is that Nika said earlier, we never stop learning. Beekeeping is something that changes all the time. And as the three of us have talked with each other about, it's very much so dependent on where you are, the environment that you're in, even inside of, like, I'm in the Northeast. I get my bees from an apiary that is probably about 5 miles south of me. but it's in a very wooded, secluded area. It's more rural than it is urban. And where I keep my bees is in a very urban area. And so my girls react differently to that stimuli than they do out in the middle of a forest somewhere. So a lot of what I would say the first thing is knowing your environment is probably one of the biggest things that you can know, or the one of the biggest words of wisdom that I could give you. The next thing is something that Nika touched on too, is that beekeeping is trendy on TikTok and social media right now, and it's everybody is all, you know, softly spoken. And I walked up to this yard and I picked up a whole bushel of bees with my bare hands. Don't do that, please. That is the opposite of what you ever want to do, ever. I was in the United States Air Force. I taught chemical warfare. I taught people how to survive nuclear attacks. One of the biggest things that I did was I wore my protective equipment for hours on end. That's literally all I taught for 4 hours a day sometimes, is taught people how to put on their equipment. So I don't believe in getting stung. It's just not something that we have gear for that. It doesn't mesh well with me. It doesn't feel good, so I don't like it. So yeah, you have to be kind of a little bit more realistic about things, and learn from the people that are around you. And I guess that takes me to my next slide, where we were talking about the what community. Yeah. Community is a huge deal. Mentorship is also a huge deal, and it's kind of one of the reasons why we're here. Had it not been for my mentor, who was there to teach me, I don't know where I would have gotten my information from. I could have learned from the internet, but it's different from being hands-on and knowing someone who is doing what it is that you're trying to do. And then the added aspect of us being African-American, doing things that most people don't see us doing. Walking around, in my bee suit here in the city, I get crazy looks. I get people asking me questions, you know, and I don't know how it works where you all are, you know, but I know that when I come to my community, you know, Nika and Karyn, and I bring questions and I give them you know, scenarios and things of that nature, I know that we have a common lived experience of being Black before anything. So there is it just hits different. So I can really just say it's different. And like my partner, I do beekeeping with, a lady from my job. She's not Black, and things are different for her. I watch how it happens, how she moves about when she goes out to the hives, and how people look at her. And she notices the difference of how people, you know, engage with me. So I don't have, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you guys know. So this is important because we've been doing this clearly since we've been here, and we're going to continue doing it. And I think that here in the future, with how things are going, self-sustainability is a tool that we all need to have, and beekeeping is it's the easier route to go, I would say. um, but yeah, so we're here to hopefully one day help people find mentors, and we're here to start a community of beekeepers that look like us.
I would just add for some of the like words of wisdom. One thing that's just very practical, I would add is plan for when you get stung beforehand. It does not matter how experienced of a beekeeper you are, it will happen. I know people get stung 17 years into beekeeping, so and sometimes you get stung even with the suit on. Less likely, but it's still possible. And so all that to say, just make a plan as to how you'll handle those types of things when you get stung. So for example, just have the Benadryl already. If you're a person who, you know, you can go to a doctor and they will write you like a prescription for some type of EpiPen or some type of similar thing. And so just have a plan for how you'll handle that. There's some natural remedies as well, but just have it in stock because the last thing you want is to be freaked out about having a bee sting while you have to then go and get supplies. So just be prepared. I also just keep 2 things of Benadryl with me at all times in my wallet. So then if I get stung, I can immediately take it. Um, Another thing is be patient. The first year of beekeeping, there is a good chance you will not get honey because the first goal of the first year is to make sure that your bees are strong and can make it through the winter, especially for those of us that have, cold winters. Um, and so the main thing is to make sure you have a strong hive and your bees and your honey will be better for it that second year. But that does mean that you have to be patient. And it can be very hard having to deal with learning bees and beekeeping and not being able to have the fruit of the honey, but it's so worth it in that second year. That's not to say you can't get honey during that time, but it's not as likely. So that would be just a few things. And then Nika, do you have 1 or 2 things you want to add to?
I think that was really pretty much it. Yeah, don't expect to get honey your first year. Leave them alone. Let your bees have it. I mean, our thing too, like for me, my program is not really for us to like be pulling the honey necessarily unless we have a like an overflow of honey. The point of me to keep bees is just to educate the public on to care for them, and how to best manage your hive in that first year so that you're a successful beekeeper. It's not necessarily always to talk about how to extract honey or take honey from your bees, but definitely in that first year, you don't want to do that. So I agree with that. And then I would also say that, so I've gotten a bee suit. The ones that I recommend is like Humble Bee. You can buy them on Amazon and they're about $150, but they're very sturdy and very good bee suit that you can use. That's not super expensive. So that's just one option too. Because a lot of times you'll see a suit that's online, it's like $50. If you get that suit, you might, I'm just saying you ain't gonna have the protection you think you have with that $50 suit. So $180, I'm sure some of us spend out on shoes or purses, or if you do that. I can't say that I do. My money is all spent on bee stuff, so and plants. So, but it's worth it to spend like a $150 for a good suit.
Yeah, I'll just add real quick because this just popped in my head. Um, Last year was my second year beekeeping, my first year as like a head beekeeper or what have you. One thing I learned from my mentor is that I call my bees my girls. I refer to them as my girls and things of that nature. But you have to keep in mind that these animals don't live necessarily for long, and you're going to lose some. So you can't be too precious. You will have a working relationship with them, but they're not your friends. And they will put you in check if you're not. And that happens really, really quick. I always tell people, don't be nervous because they will know. But yeah, about being precious, I've lost 3 hives. And that was due to the cold snap, to it being cold. I've had 3 hives that did not overwinter. And again, to what Nico was saying, knowing the biology and DNA composition of your bees. I'm getting 2 packs of bees this year, and my bees this year are coming from Boston. So I'm hoping that because they are from a colder climate than what we experience down here, that they'll last through the winter. So my fingers are crossed. But yeah, just being patient, and knowing your surroundings and knowing your bees. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I will also say that if there's one thing that you're going to learn from being a beekeeper is you're going to learn patience. You're going to learn mindfulness. You're going to learn to be how to set your intentions. Every mistake that you make in the hive, I don't want anyone to beat themselves up about it because you're going to make mistakes when you start beekeeping. Your job is to make sure you learn from those so that you can be a better beekeeper for the bees that you are taking in charge of taking care of. I mean, if Bruce said it, bees aren't your friends, my bees are my friends. Like, those are my homegirls. And sometimes your homegirls is not cool with you. Sometimes your homegirls have a bad day, and you need to know when to back up off of them. And so I know that there are days when I go in my hive and my girls are not having it. And I respectfully say, I hear you, girl. I'm going to go ahead and back up out of here. And I'll come back next week when maybe you're feeling a little better. I will also say I name my queen. So I got Aretha, I got Beyonce, I got I got Anita. Like so because I feel like I am more connected to them when I name them, right? Like so when my mom used to say, don't name your goats because you're gonna have to kill them later. Don't name your chickens because you're gonna have to kill them later. I have chickens, they all have names. I ain't planning on killing them. They give me eggs. And bees, I don't plan on killing them. I plan on chilling with them for as long as they will hang around, and I want to build a relationship with them. So I name them. So when you guys get your queen, name your queen, name your box, build a relationship with your bees, and you'll take better care of them. And if you see them more than just a box of bees, that's my suggestion. So my bees are my friend, Bruce. Those are my homegirls.
I meant they not my friends, as in like my mama not my friend.
I got you. I got you. Yes, that's right. Yes.
1 or 2.
Yes, yes. Who you playing with? I'm not your little friend. I got you.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump into Q&A session now. So Karyn, you want to lead that?
Before we go to Q&A, Nika,
Mhm.
sorry, just one thing. We have an announcement on February 25th. We're going to keep doing these sessions. And so February 25th at 7 p.m., we're going to do a session around beekeeping and mental health. As we were talking collectively, we thought about how beekeeping has been beneficial to all of us, whether it's through helping us in our mental health journeys, self-discovery, whatever it is. And so we want to be able to talk about that and the benefits of beekeeping. And so this is an exciting journey. And so just want to be able to talk about issues of these topics. And so our goal is to do a monthly session. And so the next one will be February 25th at 7 p.m. And then other thing is that we are going to try to do some support of mentor matching. We do have a link, which I will put in the chat function that you can use. And we can't guarantee that everyone will get will be matched with a mentor, but we're going to try our best to try to help identify some people. And then from there, you can see if, you all will be a good match based upon location and other things. But the hope is to hopefully support people to have mentors that are within their region. So again, I'll put the link in the chat function in a second. However, if you want support with that, we'll try to do the best we can to connect you with other Black beekeepers. So those are announcements, but now we can go into Q&A. Does anyone have any questions?
If not, we did a good job, y'all.
I have a question. It's a small question, but it's around like space because I have it's not a crazy small yard, it's decent size, but I was concerned about space and location because I have like a spot behind my garage that I think would be good. It would keep a good distance away from like the rest of the house. I plan to do some gardening back there, but that's like my wild area where I have like wildflowers and goldenrod and stuff like that growing. So I think it would be a good spot. But I'm worried it might be too of a like far away distance. I don't know if that makes sense. And I also have like a park on the other side. So I don't know. We can have bees in my city, but I was wondering if like if that might be an issue.
I'd say one thing, when you're thinking about where to place your bees, make sure it's not a high trafficked area. Make sure that there is some type of wall or bush that's not too far from your bees because that forces them to come out and up, right? So you need to have that. Everywhere in the United States, you need to make sure your bees have adequate water source. If you're beekeeping right, your neighbors should barely know that
Okay.
you have bees if you're doing it right. But I definitely would say look up the regulations to your local regulations on beekeeping. Some of them require that each one of your hives have at least 1,200 square feet to themselves. So it just all depends on what your rules are in your area. I'm sure that if you took a picture or a video of your space and sent it to one of us, that we can give you a better idea of placement. But I just say always think of what your less trafficked area is. Is there a wall or a bush for them to, to help direct them upwards? And is it a place where they have easy access to water?
Yeah, I would just add also, because if it's near your house, do you have like your HVAC unit, your air conditioner and heater, that box? I've learned, especially my girls that are on the roof, they started attacking that, and we start losing a lot of bees when they're trying to attack a fan blade because
Yeah, ours is close, so it's close to the house. And then, oh gosh, I did some measuring, but I can't remember. The place where I want to put them is all the way on the back fence. And rough estimate, and maybe, I don't know, somewhere between like 60 feet maybe to the back wall. And then they're like going to be behind the garage too. So they're not even going to be like I mean, they're flying obviously, but it's a distance to go there. They should have plenty of other things to attack other than that unit being so close. And we have a privacy fence. So they do have like it would be the garage, the privacy fence, like on all areas except for the one where it's open.
So another thing I would say is always make sure that you're inspecting your hives every 2 weeks so that you know what's going on with them. I know that may be hard in the winter time, and depending on where you're at, you would need to cover them and keep them insulated, and you don't want to be opening their hives as much. But during the times where you can, the springtime and into the summer months, you should definitely be inspecting them every 2 weeks. And so if you can open up that hive every 2 weeks and not disrupt your neighbors, then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, where are you at, Shalitha?
I'm in Oaklawn, Illinois.
Illinois. If that's the case, Nika is in Phoenix, so she has a heat issue, whereas you have more of a winter issue.
Mhm.
Winter, don't go in at all unless it's 55 degrees. You do not, and even then, you don't do a hive check like you would. Like Nika said earlier, a hive check in the winter is very different than a hive check in the spring or summer. But something also to be conscious of, if you get a lot of snow, just make sure you have some type of plan or pathway as to how you can get to that hive in the snow, because you do need to clear out the entrance if you have like snow come down so that the bees can have oxygen. So just something to keep conscious of as you're also thinking about your location. Make sure you have some type of place, it's feasible for you to be able to walk in the snow, which it probably is since it's on your property, but just something to be conscious of.
Yeah, so you should never do hive inspections if the temperature is below 55 to 60 degrees. You're not supposed to open your hive if it's 105 or above, because your bees are constantly trying to keep a temperature of about 94 to 90, 98 degrees, I believe, in their hive. So when you open it up and you're keeping it open, you're causing them to do more work. So never do it if it's below 55 to 60 degrees, and never do it if it's over 105.
That's
Yeah.
good to know about
Okay.
that.
Sorry, Karen.
No, go ahead.
And this is why it's really important, like, about knowing your environment. So I used to live out in Posen, Illinois. So I know Oakland pretty well. You're going to have great production out there, because one of the things that I learned too is that most people think that bees get their pollen from flowers the most, and it's not true. It's trees. And in Oakland, you have lots of trees. You're really good to go. There's excuse me. Shut this thing off. But yeah, no, you're gonna be fine. To worry about you is the winters. Is like right now, and you know how it gets cold out there. You're gonna want to wrap your bees up. And, sorry,
Well,
you're gonna
crazily,
wrap
it's
your
actually
bees up.
weird. In January,
Yeah,
like 55 degrees right now.
yeah.
It's just, sustainability is real, because what is this planet right now?
Right. So yeah, you'll definitely be fine.
Well, I might reach out to you then, since you were kind of
Yeah,
accustomed
I
to
know
the
the area well.
yeah. I beekeeped in St. Louis, so I mean it gets cold there. We get like
Hmm.
they get like ice and stuff, but obviously it's much colder up here. So
Is
Any
there anybody else? Yeah. Arthur, you have anything you want to add? You've been beekeeping for 10 years. Is there something you think that we should have talked about, or maybe something we left out that you want to throw out there for the rest of the beekeepers? We have to unmute yourself first, though. I'm sorry.
Yeah, as all of you have pointed out, community is very important. It's always fun to work with other beekeepers to learn things that you didn't think that you needed to know, but you find out that it's helpful. I'm very fortunate in that beekeeping for us out here in California is year round. I mean, we don't really have, like, for the people who are in Illinois, you have a beekeeping season that I would imagine is probably 4 or 5 months out of the year, whereas we're constantly dealing with our bees. Out here in this area, bees are already swarming. Another thing, a suggestion: if you really get hooked, or if you really get stung your first year of beekeeping, really look into educational opportunities. If you don't do it for the knowledge, definitely do it for the people that you meet. I did a master beekeeping course, and it's, the people that you meet are just incredible, and it's people from all over the world that you meet. Yeah, just be mindful if you watch something on TV to keep in mind your location, because a lot of people publish things on YouTube, especially, that are specific to their environment. An example, I was seeing videos in December of people splitting their hives, but then when I when I read through the videos, I found out like these people were in New Zealand and Australia, so they're in the southern hemisphere. But just keep that in mind. Let's see, other thing. I could talk about bees all day long, so be careful.
Well, that's good to know. We might hit you up to join one of our next talks.
Also, just you'll hear one of the things, terminology, stressors, environmental stressors. If you can keep your bees free of some of those environmental stressors, if environment, heat, cold is an issue, try your best as a beekeeper to protect your bees from that. If it's food, for example, out here in our area, we were in a drought for 5 years. So we were constantly feeding.
On this panel talk, and again, we hope to see you guys on our next panel talk, which will be February 27th. Like Sister Karyn said, where we'll be going over mental health and mental wellness and beekeeping. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please have a good rest of your evening.